Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to have this conversation today and with somebody halfway across the world. So first, I say thank you, Amanda, for getting up so early. Amanda's in Australia. So Amanda Shembri is a kinesiologist who has spent over a decade helping women with emotional and energetic freedom. Her work is deeply rooted in getting to the core story they carry in this lifetime and clearing it permanently, allowing them to finally feel free, empowered, and deeply connected to who they are. She works with women who are seeking more, trusting themselves, knowing their intuition, and feeling confident in their own skin. Women who are tired of carrying the belief that they are not enough and all the ways it seeps through their skin. With over 20 years of experience in healing and transformation, Amanda's message is that it is not about pushing harder, but clearing the resistance that's been silently running the show. Emotional freedom comes when we let go of the core conditioning we carry around our emotions. Once cleared, we are free to respond with the love inside of us rather than from anger. She does this through one-on-one sessions, workshops, and deep transformational journeys where the only thing she guarantees is change. Amanda, welcome. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Thanks, Francine. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for getting up so early. So just for those of you in context, it's 5:30, almost 5:30 p.m. on the US and it's 7:30 a.m. in Australia. So Amanda really did me a favor by getting up so early. Um, so Amanda, I'd love for you to just start off by explaining what kinesiology is and how you got to here. What is I often say to my guests, you didn't graduate high school and decide, you know what, I think I'm going to be an energy healer. I think I'm going to be a kinesiologist, right? So what was your journey to where you are today?
I mean, so it's kind of two parts. Like, since I remember turning 16 or around when I was 16, and it was in the 80s, and I was like, I knew I wanted to have a business where I helped people. That was really clear to me. And at that time, in the 80s, I was like, I had these dreams of being this like kick-ass beautician with a like great salon and, women coming in and like leaving feeling different, right? Except I didn't follow it. So, and I fell into office work. I fell in because I just didn't know how to do that. And I also think I wasn't emotionally ready
Sure.
to hold that space, right, for other people. I had to like go through it myself before I could do it for others. So, you know, I had a big trauma event when I was a child that deeply impacted who I was as a person and my family. Um, and that really set some fundamental, like, not enough, self-loathing, can't do this, even though I had this vision. And so my life really has been about holding these two polarities of like wanting the desire to help people, and also feeling all the places that didn't believe I could have that, right? And so my journey really has been about unlearning all the places that told me I couldn't, so that I could actually step more wholeheartedly into what it is that I wanted. And I chose a profession where I was an executive assistant and a personal assistant. So I actually was helping people, but I was starting to get really, really annoyed at doing work. I had an excellent pulse on the team and the people that we worked with, and my managers always loved me. But I reached a point where I was like, I'm not satisfied. I'm really not satisfied. And that's the thing that has always led me, because I believe that we have both polarities, right? We have a belief that what we want, or a desire and what we want, and then we have all the things that will tell us, that come up to tell us what we need to look at and meet and resolve in order to have that. And so I've really gone all the levels in that in my own life, that brought me to kinesiology. And I remember being in my office and I was working for a big sporting corporation, and I was watching them spend 19 million on upgrading a football stand, and I was like, what am I doing? And I just was like, I had this clear voice where I was like, if I have to do this for another 20 years under fluorescent lighting, I am going to die. And
Mm.
so that really led me to like really look again at, this desire to help people was the thing that led me. And so I went to a few open days at different colleges, and I at the time I had been receiving kinesiology for a couple of years, and I sat down in one of the lectures. I had no inclination at all to study kinesiology. I simply went to the lecture more so that I could understand what was happening to me when I had a session. And then my interest went through the roof, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've got to study. So that's kind of what led me to kinesiology.
And can
Yeah.
you just explain to the listeners what exactly is kinesiology?
Yeah, kinesiology is this like, I mean, I say it's a beautiful modality. What I love about it is that it's always about balance. It's about balancing our physical self with our mental and emotional self and our spiritual self, or our environment. And so it identifies that all three of those areas at any one time are in communication with each other. And so if we have a shoulder pain, for example, there's an emotional aspect to it, and there's a spiritual or an environmental aspect to it. And so what kinesiology does is identify where that imbalance is and gives you the tools to correct it. And what I love about kinesiology the most is that it's not an educated guess. Kinesio, and you do it as well, Francine, but muscle testing is something that we rely on as the tool to identify where imbalance is in the body. And muscle testing is this is like what blows my mind, and it continues to blow my mind. And I've been doing this for over 10 years now. Is that muscle testing is a tool where we tune into the body, and if we're working face to face, we would like put pressure on a muscle. We would test the muscle, and the body responds. It's like if we ask it a question, the body will be able to hold that energy, or it won't be able to hold that energy. And when it can't hold that energy, it tells us that that's where either a stressor is, or that's where the work is. And so when a client comes to me, we're always using that tool to identify what it is that's in their way, what it is that needs to be resolved in their system. And it can be on any one three of those fields, like physically, emotionally, environmentally, spiritually. Um, yeah, so it gives us great insight into, or a different, like into the unconscious, right? Because as we know, the conscious mind is like 5%, the unconscious is like the 95%, right?
Right.
And so it gives us the tool to tap into that unconscious, where all our thoughts, beliefs, patterns that we play out, the things that stop us, and gives us information. It's like a divining tool. I love it.
Yeah, I teach my clients how to muscle test. I use my body as a pendulum. I know you use the, for those of you not watching, she was using her fingers as muscle testing, but I use my body because I
Right,
don't trust myself with my fingers. Like I'm like, oh,
right.
I'm doing it. But with my body, it goes forward for yes and backwards for no. And most of the clients I work with are women that spend so much time in their head. And our head lies to us 100% of the time. So I
Mm,
teach them to make decisions from listening to their body because your body just
mm,
doesn't lie to you.
mm,
I will even introduce it to somebody when I have a discovery call with them, right? Like don't make the decision right now. Go check and see because your body is always going to say, "I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the time." But your body is going to be like, "Yes, no." Right. And
mm,
I do it too when I have to make big decisions like, all right, do I want to invest in this program or this program? Because
mm.
my brain will get in the way and be like, ooh, is it in your budget? Was it good enough? Right. So I feel like your body just always has the truth in it. And
Exactly.
that, listening to the brilliance of it is really how you can move forward.
Well, that's where the intuition rises, right? So, that's one of the all the women who come to me want to be connected to their intuition, and it's our
Yeah.
brain, right, that gets in the way. And so
100%.
when we
Yeah.
can return to this that has all the answers, that has the belief that we can do something, right? But it's our brain that like has all the information that goes, no, 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 we can't do that. We can't do that. Right. So that's where like the body testing is the
Right.
dream, right?
I always, and this is education for me, because I always use muscle testing and kinesiology interchangeable. But what I'm understanding you're saying is muscle testing is the gateway to the kinesiology. So once you find out what the pain in the shoulder is caused from, then you're doing some form of energy work, and that's the kinesiology. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so I mean, kinesiology, like when broken down, is a study of movement, right? So
Okay.
if you use the muscle testing as the divining tool, kinesiology is quite vast, right? So, the way, and I work with emotional and energetic mastery. So I really work with the chakras and I
Okay.
really work with the meridians, right? So kinesiology relies heavily on the Chinese medicine
Right.
energetic system.
Yeah.
And that's what they use a lot to, or yeah, a lot to clear points in the body when it comes to, because, uh, every meridian has a muscle, an organ, an
Yeah.
emotion attached, right? So, when we look at it from that perspective, that's when it really starts to become transformational.
I love that. You talk
Mm.
about helping women feel emotionally and energetically free. What does
Mm.
emotional freedom actually feel like
What does it feel like? The
or
first
look?
sounds, yeah. It's I feel like it's a big question, but like it's the first thing that comes to me, it's like being able to set, like to follow your yes is
Hmm.
what I would first say is that emotional freedom is. It's also being able to emotionally regulate, right? It's also being able to, like, if we were having a disagreement, for me to be open and receptive to your point of view, right? So I'm not liking what you're saying or I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, right? When we're emotionally free, we can actually hear what other people have to say. And I can either respond and go, I don't actually agree with that, Francine, or they can be like, well, okay, I hear what you're saying, and they can respond, right? It's being able to not go from 0 to 10 and yell, and then afterwards have regret about my response.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah.
So many women feel stuck in patterns of procrastination, perfectionism, or just pushing harder.
Mm.
What are those behaviors really trying to tell us?
Oh, good question. Can you ask it to me one more time?
Yeah. So the patterns of procrastination, perfectionism, and pushing harder. What are those there to teach us or tell us typically?
I mean, so when we're in those patterns of procrastination and pushing harder, right? We're trying to prove our worth. We're trying
Mm,
to be valued. We're trying to be loved. Yeah, but we're doing it from force. We're not doing it from a state of ease and flow, right? We're
right.
coming from that masculine polarity of like, if I do, especially perfectionism, if I do this thing right, then it can't go wrong, right?
I
Then
call
that,
myself a control freak in recovery, and that's,
yeah.
like covering all my bases and then, being prepared for everything, and then everything never happens, right?
You're
Yeah.
speaking to a recovering perfectionist,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And the
And
thing
to
with
me,
perfectionism is you're striving for something that doesn't even exist.
uh-huh.
Right? Like in control is also it's an illusion, right? Like
Mm,
you can't ever control a what if or a what might happen. But
mm,
it is, and I love that you mentioned it's about worthiness because I talk a lot about our addiction to busyness. And often
mm.
keeping ourselves busy is also to prove our worth, right? Because if we're not
Well,
doing, we're not valuable, we're not worthy.
but that's the driver for everything,
Yeah.
right? We're all looking to be seen, valued, acknowledged, loved, right? Heard. All of those link back to being loved, right?
Right.
That is our core survival need, right? To be seen, to be valued, to be acknowledged. Every action that we do, whether we consciously know it or not, we are looking to be accepted by others. We're looking to belong. We're looking to be, oh, okay, this is where we fit in. And so
Mm,
when we strive and when we push, right, that's what we're looking for. We're looking to for somebody to go, oh yes, well done, good job. You belong here. Or if I do everything right, yeah, of course it's going to work. Of course I'm going to be accepted. Of course I'm going to be seen. Of course I'm going to be valued. And when it doesn't, that's where it gets deeply disappointing.
right.
Yeah. And it's like identifying the core beliefs that you have underneath, right? And that having you repeat that pattern over and over again.
And those core beliefs, right? So you talk a little bit about resistance, and I would say back in my heyday, I'm still a little resistant, but back in my heyday, it was protection. My resistance wasn't that I didn't want to get to the root of it, it was that I
Mm,
didn't know how.
mm,
And now I can look back and say, oh, it was a way of protecting myself,
yes.
right? How do you help your clients get past that resistance?
By clearing the patterns and the emotions that are caught in their nervous system. And
Mm,
that goes back to what they experienced as in their childhood growing up, the ways that they were taught to love, the ways that they were taught that if they were a good girl, for example, yeah, that they would be recognized. That is how I do it. I go back to the body and I identify the story that they're telling themselves, let's just say in relation to love. And when we clear that, they don't have that story running the show anymore. So that means that they've got new ways of relating.
I love it. How many sessions do you usually work with clients for? I mean, I would assume this is not a one and done if they're core wounds, right?
It really it depends on the person, which I know is super frustrating sometimes to hear.
Yeah.
But it's true, right? Because if you've been, there's three ways that, I either do one-on-one sessions, and people particularly like they've either done work with me for a number of years and they come for top-ups, or if you've got like one recurring issue and you want to make impact on it, it's kind of 3 to 4 sessions. But again, it depends on how long that pattern you've been playing out that repeated pattern.
Right.
So I use the analogy of a tree, right? If you've been doing this since day dot, right? You plant a tree and you've been doing it for, let's say it's grown for like, I don't know, 1 or 2 years, right? For you to pick that tree up, root system and all, you'd have to put in a bit of effort, right? But you'd be able to get it up out of the ground.
Yeah.
You planted that same tree and it's been around for 20 years, you're going to have to get some excavation equipment in there to remove the tree and the roots. It's going to be a bigger job, right? So, for the bigger jobs, it's like there's a 3 month like
Yeah.
excavation treatment that you
Right.
do, and it works. It's complete. It's like every person that goes through that 3 month process experiences a change. It's a deep rooted, like, let's look at your core beliefs and core conditioning and address them at the root. And then for things that have been around, not so long, or they're kind of, yeah, they're kind of newish, like the 3 to 4 sessions. Yeah, it depends on the person and the problem.
And do you work remote? You work virtually with your clients? Do you see
Yeah.
any clients in person or is it all virtual?
No, after COVID, I went online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's the beauty of energy work, right? I actually enjoy doing energy work virtually more than I do in person because I feel like when you take the body out of it, I can be, as the healer, I'm more present because I'm not thinking about what I'm doing on the body. And then the person isn't thinking about what's going on, they're just receiving. So I think there's
love
some,
that, Francine. Like
yeah,
because pre-COVID, I was in clinic and I was working face to face, I was working
yeah,
person to person. And once COVID hit, I was really lucky because I've got the technique of muscle testing that I could bring it online. And I
Right.
started noticing that my sessions, like the power just amped up. They just became more powerful. And I made up that it was because I wasn't doing something to them. They became more the kind of their own healer in the session because I would get them to hold points. They would be more connected to their bodies.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and so
Yeah.
it is true from a practitioner perspective, it's quicker, right?
Yeah.
Because we're just testing the energy.
Right.
Because the receiver, it's like they're having a more embodied experience. I'm not doing something to them, they're having the experience. It's
Yeah.
cool.
And that's beautiful. I mean, so many of us aren't in our bodies, right? Like I usually start my sessions with my clients with just a little grounding meditation, and I do it for me as much as I do it for them because if I'm
Mm,
rushing, right, it just brings us
mm.
both into center, into groundedness, into the present space and time. Um, so we know that the body holds the answers. So what does that look like in practice when someone is trying to make a change?
What does it look like in practice? I mean, I think that's quite a, like there's quite, like it's limitless, right? It's kind of
Mm,
what it looks like in practice is being intentional. It's like, I want to have this experience, right? And usually, well, I say usually, that comes from a place of like deep within us. It doesn't make kind of intellectual sense, right?
right.
We have this desire. We're like, so for example, if I use myself an example, I wanted to help people. I didn't know how I was going to do that, right?
Mm,
It was something in me. It didn't make sense. It didn't feel safe. It didn't feel secure, right? But there was this internal knowing. And that's the starting point. I always say that's the starting point. And I think a lot of us have lost contact with that. And so then it's like, okay, how am I going to do that? Right. And then what will happen, because this is the mastery of the body, it's going to throw up all the things that come up in protest to that. And they're the things that we need to pick up and kind of go, oh, okay, you're saying that I can't do this because for fear of, you know, um, I have to be seen.
right.
Um, and you're like, okay, there's some work to do there. There's some reconciliation back in your timeline of why this isn't possible for you. And when we can pick that up and look at it and go, oh, actually, that's not true. And we use our energetic and our emotional body and our physical body to resolve that, our mental body, our spiritual body, right? It's an all-in-one. It's a really, and I want to like really insert here because that sounds like a lot, right? And it's not an all-in-once, do it once and you're
Right.
done. It's an ongoing evolving process. And actually, it's like when we can invite kindness into that practice of like, oh, this is what we want and this is what's in the way. How can I lovingly resolve this? How can I do it with care and ease? I think then you're starting to talk about, mastery. You're starting to talk about change. You're starting to talk about evolution. Um, yeah,
And I would imagine, or I'm making this assumption, I'm an EFT practitioner, and often clients come with, this is what I want to work on. But as we dig in, the thing that's on the surface isn't really what's underneath. And I would
mm,
imagine the same thing happens in your practice as well, right? What they think is holding them back, what they think is the issue, isn't actually the core issue. Is that true?
I want to say yes and no. Because the women that I work with, they're really clear that they don't feel like they're not enough, right? And they're
So,
tired of it.
yeah,
But actually, where the surprise element comes in is that they know that, but the story's attached to it,
they
right?
do they not know the stories attached to it or the root of it or,
Yeah, that's,
yeah,
like it's like when they start kind of unpacking that it makes sense to them, right? And
right,
they're like, oh, wow, because sometimes it can be really innocent. It could be like, Bobby took this off me and I got in trouble off mum, or it can be a big
right,
trauma event, it's really limitless. So that's where the surprise is. Or they suppress their feelings, right? And they don't know that they feel disgusted by, the
Right.
thing that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's where the
So,
surprise comes in.
yeah. And it can be the simplest thing of, I remember once in a session I was working with, she was a therapist slash energy healer. And I ended up being like in my elementary school hallway. And I was like, whoa, I would never have thought like something here brought that, right? Like I
Mhm.
was, how old are you in elementary school? Like 10-year-old. But it was fascinating that when we got to that place, I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? Like because I didn't know where it came from. But then to get to the root of it, because if we knew where half the stuff came from, we'd be like, all right, I'll journal about that. I'll
Totally,
meditate on it. It'll be good. It'll be
totally.
fine.
And that's what I really, that's what I like to kind of knock out of the ballpark, right? Is because people have this stigma around feeling and emotions,
Yeah.
and they think it has to be hard. Yeah. And I want to put a case like, depending on what's happened, it's different for everybody. But actually, when you identify the core thing that happened, it's not difficult because once you understand it, you can make peace with it. And when you can
Mm,
make peace with it, you can let it go. And when you've got somebody leading you, right, and showing you and helping you and supporting you, it's a lot softer and gentler. And it literally can be in a second be changed.
right.
Yeah. And then your body and your energy system reformulate around the new belief that you're creating. And, if there's one thing that I really am starting to communicate to people is that it doesn't have to be difficult, you know?
Well, we make everything so hard, right? If
Mhm.
it's not worth it, if it's not hard, right? Like if it's easy, then I must be doing something wrong. So,
Right.
and even with emotions, right? Like you mentioned emotions, like we as a society, um, we call, good emotions bad emotions. I don't think there's good or bad.
Mm,
There's just emotions.
that's it.
Happiness, joy is no different than anger and sadness. They're just different ends of the
Information.
spectrum. Right. It's
It's
just information.
information,
Right.
right? It's information. And that is like what I teach the people that I work with, because we label it good, bad.
Right.
I
Right,
feel
wrong.
sad,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, or I'm angry, that's bad. And it's not. Anger is there to tell us that something, that whatever's making us angry is actually really important to us. And
Right.
something's being violent. It's information. And once
Well,
we,
think about a child, right, that falls and cries, and the
Mhm,
parents are like, you're fine. You're
mhm,
okay. Stop
mhm,
crying.
mhm,
Right? Instead of being curious of what's going on.
mhm,
Are you
mhm.
okay? Right? We are from a very young age, told not to cry, not to throw tantrums, right? As
Yep,
children, be quiet, stop,
yep.
don't yell, don't, right? And that's just an expression of whatever emotion is coming up.
Yeah. Instead of, right, what's going on for
Right,
you,
right.
right? That would be the difference. And I really want to say here, um, that it's innocent, like like if we think of our generation, like
Oh,
I see the
absolutely.
right, if I see the generations coming up now, and like, good on them. They've got so much more emotional and energetic freedom because their parents had more capacity. But for
Right,
our parents of our generation, right, they came up, like, my mum was born in the Depression, right? Like, they didn't really, like, there was no room for, like, how do you feel? It was
right,
like, how do you survive?
right,
Right. So as we evolve, like, we're moving towards this and that's why I work with women of our age, because we weren't seen, we
right.
weren't valued, we were children should be seen and not heard, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Right. What do you say to someone who wants to trust their intuition more, but is constantly doubting themselves?
Let me sit on that one for a second. What do I want to say to women who want to trust their intuition more, but are
But they're
doubting?
constantly doubting themselves. I had this conversation with a client earlier today, and I do it myself sometimes too. Like, is that my intuition? Is that my ego? And then I have to sit with it and go, okay, I'm going to trust that it's
Mm,
my intuition, but it's not
yeah,
always so easy, right?
and I think it's like what I say to the people that I work with, it's like, because people will be like, oh, but I don't, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well, wait until you do,
Yeah.
right? Nothing is going to like blow up if you don't make a decision today. Sit with it until you have reconciled it in your system, right? And can get clearer about it and then make a decision. Because once we do that, we can start kind of like unpacking, like, oh, actually, I feel scared. Or,
Mm,
no, but this is what I want. Is it what I really want? Pros and cons are great in that, like I think because when we list the pros and cons, we're like, well, if I do this, these are the pros, these are the cons. That can really help reconciliation. But actually, the first port of call I would say to most people is like, wait, sit with it, feel it,
yeah.
have some conversations around it, see how it feels in your body. Because that's our intuition. That's what our intuition needs. It needs all of us, not our brain telling us, like, no, danger, danger. If we do that, it's
Right.
wrong, right?
What are some signs that people can look for that it's their core beliefs that might be sabotaging their dreams? And how do they start to shift them?
So, like repetitive thoughts, you know, like if we're kind of going 0 to 10, if it's in a feeling or a thought, or it's like kind of like panic in their system, I would say their core beliefs running, or if you can say, I can't do this because of whatever, you've got a core belief because actually you can. You
Mm,
absolutely can. You absolutely can. If you think you
right.
can, you're probably right. And if you think you can't, you're probably
You're
right. Yeah.
right. Yeah. What's a powerful practice or question that someone can maybe ask themselves to start to begin listening to their body and clearing what's in the way?
I think like, I mean, there's so many questions. For me, it's like I don't know if it's a question per se. I would say it's more writing or speaking it out. So
Okay.
I know not everybody is a writer, but for me, my first port of call would be, I remember like back in the day when I was trying to figure everything out, I would journal. I would write, and I never was a journaler. Like my teens, I never journaled, right? I think I picked up journaling in my 30s. And when you can see it in front of you, right? Or you can hear it if you bring
Right.
in another sense, because you want to stop the thoughts that are happening in your head, or at least bring attention to them. And so you have to, if you just rely on thinking about it, you're not going to hear it because we have the thought 100 million times before we even hear it consciously. So
Yeah.
writing it out, speaking it out, because you won't say it 100 million times when you write it out. You'll only say it once, and then you might complain about it, but then you're seeing it, you're like, oh wow, this is what I'm thinking and feeling, right? That is the beginning of change.
And I think the writing process gets you out of your head a little bit if you can just write. And I learned a technique years ago. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how many years ago, where you write the question with your dominant hand, but the answer with your
Mm,
non-dominant hand.
mm,
And I remember
mm.
every once in a while I'll do that, and it's like a fascinating because it gets you out of your head because you're so focused on this, and you're like, "Ooh, I did not know that was the answer to whatever it was that's going on."
Yeah. I would say like whatever you can do to bring it out of your body and
Yeah,
see it, like bring in a different sense, then you're already ahead of the game. Like that's the starting point, right?
yeah. I love that. Oh my gosh, I could talk to you forever. But I do love to end with this question. What is something that you live by that you want to share with the listeners?
I I want to say the thing I live by, the thing that leads me is love.
Mm,
The desire to have the experience that I want to have. Like, and again, it's love, right? It's the thing that moves me. It's the thing that I feel, and when I share it, I create more connection, more experiences, I open more. It's like, and it can be a cup of chai in the morning. It can be sitting in bed. It can be going down to the beach. It can be sitting with my best friend.
Yeah.
Um, there's many ways that love awakens, and it's the thing that that really leads me and shows me the way.
I love that. Hey, what a
Mm.
beautiful note to end on. As I do with every podcast, I pulled cards before we started, and today I pulled the Ask Your Guides card, and I muscle tested to see which were the right cards. So in front of me, I have three cards, and I'm going to invite Amanda and anyone who's listening to just take a deep breath and just ask yourself, what's an area that you might need some information around? What is it that is calling to you that there's a focus? And I have a card on the left, center, and right. So I'm going to have you choose, Amanda, which one feels right for you.
Enter.
Center. Okay. Epiphany. Hmm. So there's an epiphany that has been showing up for you lately. Maybe it's to listen to that. And if you chose left, decisions. So there might be a decision that you either need to make or have been making. And I would say follow your intuition with that, whatever that decision is. And on the right, self-control.
Mm, mm.
So maybe that's an area that needs to be worked on. Amanda, thank you so much for this conversation. It was such a fun topic.
Yeah.
We could have talked forever. And for those listening, thank you for joining me today on my journey and your journey and our journey towards a more enlightened and fulfilling life. I really hope that today's episode has inspired you to embrace your inner wisdom and navigate your path with a renewed sense of purpose. Remember, transformation begins from within. So take a moment each day to connect with your higher self and trust that the universe is guiding you towards your highest good. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with others who might benefit from our message. Your support really helps us to reach more souls on their spiritual journey. Stay connected in our community. Both Amanda's and my links will be in the show notes. And until next time, continue to shine your light and walk in peace and love. I am Francine Terrell, and this has been Effin' Fridays with Francine. Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Francine.